Alrighty, if you've been following along here, you've seen that this house has been pretty much gutted. Made a discovery today. If I have the lights on, on the other side here, behind me, I've got lights in the basement. They're just kind of these Home Depot string lights strung up all over the place. I forget how many strings I have them up. They're, I think, 500 watts a piece, and I think I probably have 5 or 6 of them up. Actually, no, I take that back. I have more than that. I think I have 2 in the basement. Yeah, I probably have 7 or 8 of them up, so I can see what I'm doing in here. And I made a discovery today. If I turn my table saw on or my chop saw, have the lights on, the breakers pop. There's only 2 15 amp circuits that are working in the house. So that kind of presents a problem. So another trip to Home Depot. Well, I guess it was I was already going there to pick up some little angle brackets and return some wire miscommunication between me and the HVAC guys on my part. They only needed 10.3, or excuse me, 10.2 and 12.2 running to the running to the heat pump and running to the furnace, and I thought he said 10.3. It was entirely my fault. I just wrote down the wrong one, but I just had to take some wire back and pick up the right wire, and you could use 10.3 and place at 10.2. It's just, saves 30 or 40 bucks on a roll. So figured, well, I'm going, I'll just take it in and replace it. But I did notice that this morning that I can't run the chop saw and the lights at the same time, so I got somewhat of a creative solution going here. I don't know if you can see this or not. Okay, it's a 30 amp 30 amp power cord that's meant for 220, and I found a splitter that runs it off into 2 15 amp 110 lines, and I just ran that through the wall here, and it's going to go down in the basement. Yeah, it's that big honking cord there. And I'm going to tie that into the box because they've cut pretty much all the wiring going down here, except for there's 2 circuits that are in the kitchen that are still connected. And I think, I'm just going to tie into this. It looks like it's aluminum, but I think it's, I think it's 6.3, and I'll just tie into that, and it looks like it's set up on a 30 amp 220 breaker. I'm just going to tie into that so I can have power for things, because they've cut all the rest of the wiring and pulled it out for the copper, and I need power. I can't run the lights and run power tools at the same time. It's okay with just like the little hand saw, or well, I guess it's not a little hand saw, it's a pretty big honkin' with my worm drive circular saw, but I can't use my I can't use my chop saw or table saw because it just pops the breakers, and I kind of need light to be able to see what I'm doing. So here's the this pulls enough juice to where I lose light if I if I try and use the saw. So yeah, anyway, I need to go back over to the house and pick up my wiring tools, and I'll go ahead and wire that in, and then I can just run different circuits off of that. I've just about bought out all the extension cords Home Depot carries, I think, since they have. Seems like every time I go there, I need another one or two. Because right now, this 14.2 here is running on one breaker, so everything in the house everything except for the lights in the basement run off of this circuit right here. And I've got some big, fairly hefty, 10.3 extension cords running sort of as trunk lines through the rest of the house for lights and power. I've got, one big heavy one going upstairs, one big heavy one going in the other room. And it works. It had worked so far, but now I just am starting to use some some tools that pull a little more power, and it doesn't work now. So yeah, this is the other circuit that still works. Let's see, it's it's another 15 amp circuit, and I've got two 1,000 watts of lights off of it, so it'll still run some tools okay, but it whatchamacallit will still pop whenever I put up plug in the chop saw or the table saw. So I'm kind of at the point now where I need to spend a half hour or so wiring this new extension cord in, and then I should be good until I get the house until I can get the house wired for real. Let's see, there's my little work cords. I try to use for things like this heavy 10 gauge cables kind of running all over as arteries, and then I use smaller 12 and 14 gauge for just sort of general use cords. So you can see some of these have been around a while. Actually, this one isn't too bad, but I've got some of them that are split and cracked, and I try and use the smaller cords like this just to work off of, because they're a lot cheaper than the heavier cords. And I try and keep the length of the lighter gauge cords down, because for example, if you try and run all the wires, or excuse me, all the lights off of, I've got I think 5 strings of those lights upstairs, running between downstairs. If you try and run all that off of a little 14 gauge cord like this, you're either going to melt it or start a fire. So that's why I try to do the arteries and capillary type arrangement, where I've got heavy 10 gauge going out, and then running smaller work cords. Plus, it's not as big a deal if you saw through a cheapo 14 gauge cord like that as if you saw through a big honkin' 10 gauge where it's fairly spendy or that's a pretty big mistake. Plus, it's extra weight and heft you don't want to have to mess with carrying around, so I try and do that. But I just kind of gotten to the point now where I need more power, because I can't run everything that I need to run and have lights going at the same time. So that's my project once I get back over, and then I'm going to start putting in the attic access, which is going to be an absolutely miserable endeavor. Let me head upstairs here so you can see. Okay, here's the access, or here's the door rather, not the access. Home Depot actually has them pretty cheap. I think it was only 200 and some bucks for one. I guess in this house it's a little more of a pain, because you need one that can actually do a 10-foot drop, versus if you live in a normal non-gargantuan ceiling house, it's not as big a deal. So here we are. I'm going to put the attic access kind of somewhere up in this hallway. And the thing that sucks about it is getting up there. The only way to get in the attic is through this little tiny access that I can barely squeeze through. So, that is not going to be fun. I've got another string of lights I'm going to throw